first meeting of Agriculture and Fisheries Ministers of ALBA TCP was held in Venezuela with the objective of achieving food sovereignty through regional cooperation. The Supervision and Controllership Commission of the Peruvian Congress approved Friday a report that recommends to evaluate a possible declaration of vacancy for permanent moral incapacity of the President Dina Boluarte. And Kilmar Abreu Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador, returns to the United States to face criminal charges for alleged migrant smuggling. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Ministers of Agriculture and Fisheries of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, ALBA TCP, agreed Friday in Caracas, Venezuela, to adopt strategies to ensure the region's agri-food sovereignty with a solidarity approach. The bloc's Executive Secretary, Jorge Arriaza, emphasized that the meeting sought to strengthen the region's agri-food capabilities and vast marine and aquaculture resources. The participants at the event also praised the so-called Alba Azul initiative, which proposes to strengthen the production of marine protein with the intention of benefiting all the bloc members through shared investment.
In this sense, they first agreed to consolidate Agro-Alba as a strategic cooperation mechanism for the integration of ALBA TCP aimed at strengthening the agricultural, livestock and agroindustrial cooperation of the members during strategic alliances that facilitate access to productive lands according to the capacities and needs of each nation.
On the other hand, Venezuelan Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture Juan Carlos Loyo highlighted that his country proposes water capacities to boost aquaculture through the Alba Azul project.
In relation to this aquaculture proposal, as we said yesterday, based on the latest FAO analysis of 2 years ago, the two lines cross. The world produces as much food through aquaculture as fish and other resources are caught. And the world is moving towards the need for an aquaculture to support its food supply. The Alba Azul strategy also proposes the aquaculture component, and together with the capacity of the land. Venezuela proposes a water capacity, its experiences, its initiatives, so that our anglers can have access to technologies that allow them to develop sea aquaculture activities as well as to use our rivers and water bodies to develop continental aquaculture.
The Secretary General of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, informed that the nominations for the mayoral and city council elections will be held from June 9th to 13th, 2025. During a press conference, Cabello added that from July 11th to 24th, the electoral campaign for the candidates of the party will begin. Furthermore, he urged all the structures of the Great Patriotic Pole to get organized for the beginning of the grassroots assemblies this coming Saturday, June 7th, for the nomination of candidates for the mayoral and municipal councils. In this sense, he affirmed that more than 47,000 communities at the national level will participate in the grassroots assemblies.
The elections are on July 27th and the nominations for these positions are from Monday, June 9th to Friday, June 13th. It is the inscription of the candidates.
The Secretary General of the Socialist Party of Venezuela also indicated that 335 mayors will be elected and detailed that city councilors and alternates will be elected in each entity of the country.
335 mayors' offices throughout the country. 2471 candidates are going to be elected to the municipal councils. That amount is going to be elected by 2, because it is their principal and their alternate members. Let us imagine how many candidates we will have, how many candidates the opposition will have, It will be a very busy election. There are 1,420 positions, list in the municipalities, 980 to nominal candidates in the municipalities, and there are 69 candidates of indigenous representation in 8 states, positions in 8 states.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Venezuela expressed Friday through an official statement its astonishment regarding what it described as an irate and unjustified reaction by the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to complaint made by President Nicolás Maduro about the entry of Trinitarian criminals into the Bolivarian nation.
The
Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela expresses its profound astonishment at the irate and unjustified reaction of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, TeleSUR, in response to an legitimate complaint raised by President Nicolás Maduro Moros regarding the entry of criminal elements from Trinitarian territory into Venezuela.
In its official statement, the Bolivarian Foreign Ministry said that Caracas has arrested before criminals of Trinitarian origin in the Venezuelan territory, incidents that have been supported by duly compelling evidence.
Venezuela detained criminals of Trinitarian origin, who have confessed to their plans, statements duly supported with compelling evidence presented by competent authorities.
The official statement of the Venezuelan Ministry of Foreign Affairs also called the government of Trinidad and Tobago to cooperate in the clarification of the incident and stressed that the reaction of the Trinitarian Prime Minister compromised the good relations between both nations. The text also expresses Venezuela's commitment to peace and mutual respect between nations and called to resolve all legitimate concerns through diplomatic means.
Lo procedente ante esta grave situación es ofrecer cooperación y
The appropriate course of action in light of this serious situation would be to offer cooperation and willingness to clarify the facts. The Prime Minister's virulent and strident attitude raises serious suspicions of complicity, said incursion, and jeopardizes the good relations of cooperation that exists between our two countries in fundamental areas. Venezuela urges the authorities of Trinidad and Tobago not to engage in political games contrary to the interests of our peoples and reaffirms its commitments to peace, sovereignty, and mutual respect. It must be emphasized that any legitimate concern should be addressed through diplomatic means, not through threats or unfounded statements that only merely exacerbate fabricated tensions.
Now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Supervision and Controllership Commission of the Peruvian Congress approved Friday by majority a report that recommends to evaluate a possible declaration of vacancy for permanent moral incapacity of the President, Dina Boluarte, for her alleged participation in the Cofre case. The document, which must be debated in the plenary, concludes that there is sufficient evidence to request the Congress of the Republic to grant the powers of an investigative commission because they found obstacles during the investigation that limited access to key information. Boluarte is accused of alleged personal cover-up for the Cofre case, as the presidential vehicle is known, which according to the investigations would have been used by the fugitive from justice Vladimir Cerrón, leader of the political party Perú Libre, to make his escape. On Friday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum highlighted a recent report by the World Bank, which unveiled 11 million Mexicans were lifted out of poverty during the administration of President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. During her regular morning press conference, Sheinbaum referred to a reassessment carried out by the World Bank, which had initially estimated the figure was 9.5 million citizens. In this regard, the head of state addressed how the institutions reassessed their methodology and acknowledged that the actual number stands at 11 million Mexicans lifted out of poverty during President López Obrador's term from 2018 to 2022. In this context, Sheinbaum emphasized the country's economic indicators, stressing that on the current year, in the face of international economic difficulties, there is a very good perception of the domestic market. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel met on Thursday with the Secretary for Relations with the States and International Organizations of the Holy See, Paul Richard Gallagher, and sent his greetings to Pope Leo XIV. In his official X account, Foreign Affairs Minister Bruno Rodriguez pointed out that this meeting evidences the intention of both the states to continue strengthening their diplomatic relations. On the occasion of the 90th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the Holy See and Cuba, Monsignor Paul Richard Gallagher offered a Mass in the Cathedral of Havana on Wednesday. During the ceremony, he assured that Cuba holds a special place in the heart of the Holy Father. In Panama, teachers and labor unions called for a new mobilization to demand the government to repeal Law 462 of the Social Security Fund. The demonstrators arrived at the headquarters of the Panamanian National Assembly to denounce that the Social Security reform is detrimental to workers and their families. The unions also demanded the cancellation of the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the executive branch and the administration of the United States, as well as the opening of a copper mine closed in 2023. Likewise, they condemned the arbitrary detention of several union leaders and indigenous authorities on unsubstantiated judicial charges. In Chile, victims of illegal adoptions demonstrated Friday to urge the creation of a public DNA bank to help them reunite with their relatives. With slogans such as "No More Silence" and "Dressed in Black," members of the Children and Mothers of Silence Foundation welcomed the presidential decision to create the DNA bank, but warned they would not allow the promise to remain on paper. The bank would allow extrajudicial consultations to know biological origins without the need to open criminal proceedings, facilitating the access to the truth to those who were abducted without a legal adoption process. During the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet, a network of illegal adoptions reached massive levels and involved doctors, judges, notaries, religious and immigration authorities. In Chile, a 6.6 magnitude earthquake shook the coasts north of the Atacama region, leaving 23,000 homes without electricity supply. The National Disaster Prevention and Response Service reported that due to the earthquake in the region, there were power outages in households and minor structural damage in the areas of Atacama. Likewise, it reported that there were no deaths or injuries and recalled that the Hydrographic and Oceanographic Service of the Navy ruled out any risk of tsunami in the coast of the country. In addition, it was recorded that the depth of the earthquake was 65 kilometers and that the localities that were closest to the epicenter were Diego de Almagro and Copiapó, where the tremor was felt. The Syrian capital, Damascus, grapples with a severe water shortage, leaving residents struggling to secure enough drinking and daily use water as summer approaches. The current year has seen the lowest rainfall since 1956 in the Fiji Spring, a major water source for the nation's capital city. Local water authorities are attempting to repair abandoned wells to ease the pressure, but these measures fall short of a long-term solution. The stored water is barely enough to cover a family's needs for washing, cooking and bathing over several days. When drinking water runs out, families are forced to buy more, but soaring prices mean many can't afford only 3 bottles a day. And we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Kilmar Abreu Garcia, who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador, returns to the United States to face criminal charges for alleged migrant smuggling. According to the report, the two-count indictment was filed under seal in the Middle District of Tennessee last month. The indictment alleges that Kilmar Abreu, 29, participated in an alleged conspiracy to transport migrants from Texas into the U.S. and illegal transportation of foreigners for financial gain. Abreu is the second deportee to return to the U.S. after a Guatemalan citizen was wrongly sent to Mexico.
Two months ago, the United States Supreme Court ordered the government to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abreu Garcia, to facilitate his release from custody in El Salvador, and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had he not been improperly sent to El Salvador. Those are the words of the U.S. Supreme Court. I think we can all agree that that is not what happened today. What happened today is not the manner in which this would have been handled had Mr. Abreu Garcia never been improperly sent to El Salvador. What happened today is an abuse of power. What happened today is the exact opposite of due process, because due process means the opportunity to defend yourself before you're punished, not afterwards. Mr. Abreu Garcia is going to be vigorously defending the charges against him. I am planning to meet with him as soon as possible. As we've explained to many of you, he's been held completely incommunicado for the entire time that he was in El Salvador. He was not allowed attorney visits. He was not even allowed attorney phone calls. This is nothing like what the Supreme Court envisioned 2 months ago when it upheld the district judge's order requiring that the government facilitate his return in the ordinary course.
U.S. President Donald Trump revealed Friday that the meeting between the U.S. and Chinese teams will take place next Monday, June 9th, in the British capital of London. In a post on his Truth Social account, the U.S. President indicated that the meeting will focus on the trade agreement. He also stated that the U.S. team will be made up of Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and Trade Representative Jamieson Greer. Then Trump announced that the meeting should go very well. On Thursday, the U.S. President had a phone conversation with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping and later shared that this call focused almost exclusively on trade-related issues. From the coast of Sicily in southern Italy, the Freedom Flotilla aboard the Madeleine ship is heading for the Gaza Strip in Palestine. A group of 12 crew members set sail for the Palestinian enclave to break the Israeli humanitarian blockade against the Gaza Strip. The activists state that regardless of the attempts of the Zionist troops to intimidate them with alleged attacks, they will continue to move forward until they reach Palestinian soil. Recently, the United Nations organization reported that more than 2 million Palestinians are on the verge of starvation, in addition to shortages of medicines and other basic commodities such as water. In an exclusive interview for teleSUR, the crew member of the Madeleine ship of the Freedom Flotilla, Thiago Aveland, stated that they do not care about the Israeli threats against their humanitarian aid mission to the Gaza Strip.
Once the peoples are determined to march for their freedom, there is no turning back and no oppressive power can stop the will of the people. So we do not care about threats, we do not ask permission to the occupying force, which has no authority neither in international waters nor in Palestinian maritime territory to Pocos. So we continue to Gaza with the support of the people in the heart of every person who knows that starving children to death is wrong and we cannot accept that. So we continue our journey with the moral high ground, as Bolivar said, as Marty said, as Chavez said, as so many other people said. We continue to play our role in history. A humble mission of 12 people, but connected to a global uprising, which has the Palestinian people and the people of the global south as its leadership.
Moreover, Agro-Alba stressed that any kind of aggression by Israel against the arrival of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip is illegal.
Israel is forbidden to stop any kind of humanitarian aid from reaching Gaza, not only Israel, but any other country and the International Criminal Court. The same in the case against Netanyahu and Abdallah, as well as the few resolutions of the UN Security Council which approved for humanitarian aid to reach Gaza. Therefore, any kind of action by Israel is totally illegal both by the criteria of international law and the law of the sea of the UN, so we go with international law. With the will of the people and a deep sense of historical need to collaborate with the Palestinian people in their fight for freedom and dignity.
The United Nations warned that more than 2,700 children under the age of 5 in the Gaza Strip have been diagnosed with acute malnutrition, raising the number of children suffering from this serious physical condition since the last assessment in February. According to the United Nations Humanitarian Office, of the nearly 47,000 children who were examined in the second half of May, 5.8% were suffering from acute malnutrition. That is 3 times more than in the previous quarter. In this regard, the agency stated that despite the increasing the rate of malnutrition in children under 5 years of age, there are currently only 4 medical stabilization centers in the Gaza Strip. This situation is aggravated by the Israeli regime's continued obstruction of humanitarian access to the Palestinian territory. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.